welcome everyone. A new episode of Africa Today to dive into the most important events that are taking place into the Black Continent. And we are going to start with COVID-19 pill. Egypt is going to be the very first country in Africa and in the Middle East to approve the usage of COVID-19 pill. These were some of the statements which were said by Acting Minister of Health, Dr. Khaled Abdel Ghaffar, who said that this pill is going to be approved here in Egypt in the very near future, and Egypt is going also to produce this drug. Let's have a closer look, and then we are going to be back with more.
According to Minister of Higher Education and Scientific Research and Acting Minister of Health, Khaled Abdel Ghaffar, Egypt officially approved the COVID-19 antiviral oral pills, becoming the first country in the Middle East and the fourth worldwide to provide the drug. This comes in accordance with relevant directives from the political leadership. In this regard, the minister expressed thanks to the Egyptian Drug Authority, EDA, for the efforts it has made to accelerate licensing 5 domestic companies to manufacture the medicine after passing accurate lab tests that approve the drug for emergency use. Meanwhile, the EDA President Tamer Assom said that the drug has been authorized by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration and European Medicines Agency for emergency use for the treatment of mild to moderate COVID-19. It reduces the risk of being hospitalized by 50%. He said that local companies have so far produced 25,000 packs of the drug, noting that the move comes in line with the Egyptian state's efforts to mitigate the negative impacts of the COVID-19.
مصير مشترك.
مصر تسلمت الرئاسة الدورية للاتحاد الإفريقي لعام 2019 وتتطلع كعادتها دوما للتعبير عن شواغل الشعوب الإفريقية الشقيقة الرامية لتحقيق الاستقرار والتقدم ودفع عجلة التنمية قدما. إذا كنتم ترغبون في تغيير وجه القارة الأفريقية، فالاتحاد الإفريقي كقيادة تستطيع أن تعمل وتبذل بشكل مركزي لمشروع عملاق لبناء بنية أساسية على مستوى القارة. أنا أتصور أن الأمن والاستقرار استثمار. إذا لم تستقر هذه القارة والأمن فيها بمعدلاته عالية، هذا الأمر سينعكس بالسلب علينا كلنا.
Welcome back. Unfortunately, a number of illegal migrants drowned by the shores of Tunisia, and it was announced that a number were rescued, but unfortunately 6 others were drowned. Let's have more details in the coming report.
According to authorities and the Red Crescent, 6 migrants drowned and 30 were missing off the coast of Tunisia after their boat sank during a bid to reach Europe. Tunisian Defense Ministry spokesman Mohamed Zekri said Coast Guard units rescued a further 34 passengers after the vessel sank off Zazzris near the Libyan border. Survivors had said that 70 people had been aboard, including Egyptians, Sudanese and Moroccan, when the boat set off from Libya headed for European shores. A search and rescue operation was underway for the remaining passengers. According to Tunisian Red Crescent official, the survivors were taken to a port in Ben Gouedin. Both Tunisia and Libya have served as launch pads for migrants making desperate bids to reach Europe, especially in the chaos in Libya that followed the toppling of Muammar al-Qaddafi in 2011. The Central Mediterranean route has become the world's deadliest migration trial. Departures surged rapidly in 2021, with almost 55,000 migrants reaching Italy in the first 10 months of the year, compared with under 30,000 the previous year. The Tunisian Forum for Economic and Social Rights said that over the first 3 quarters of last year, the Coast Guard intercepted 19,500 migrants during crossing attempts. The United Nations Refugee Agency says that
And tropical storm Anna hits southern Africa, hitting particularly 3 countries, Madagascar, Malawi, and Mozambique, leaving at least 86 people dead. Let's have more details on what was going on with Anna storm in southern Africa.
Torrential rains from deadly tropical storm Anna subsided, leaving tens of thousands of people across 3 countries in southern Africa cut off by food damage, without power and living in shelters. The death toll stood at 86 across Madagascar, Mozambique and Malawi as rescue crews battled on to access regions where roads and bridges had washed away. In Malawi, where 20 people were killed, the Department of Disaster Management said impassable roads had forced families to carry corpses by foot for burial. The president has declared a state of emergency. Most of Malawi lost power and some regions were still in the dark. Tropical storm Anna brought torrential rains when it made landfall in Madagascar. As phone coverage was slowly restored in Malawi, stores of the terror's experience in the week began to trickle out. In Madagascar, where 48 people were killed, some 130,000 people were directly affected and 72,000 lost their homes. Many moved into makeshift shelters, and the Disasters Management Office said about 20,000 had begun to return home to rebuild as waters began to recede. In Mozambique, 18 deaths were reported. UNICEF said 10,500 homes were damaged, along with 12 health facilities and 137 schools.
Ladies and gentlemen, Egypt chairs African Union's permanent delegates. Egypt did not leave the African Union, did not leave Africa, despite the fact that it was in 2019 when Egypt was chairing the African Union. But still, Egypt is back to Africa, and Egypt will continue to support the African brotherly nations in all domains, particularly in restoring peace, stability, and to enjoy development. To shed more light on this, we are very much delighted to have with us via phone Ambassador Ahmed Haggag, former Under-Secretary of the...
I cannot hear you. Raise your voice, please.
Ambassador Haggag, can you hear me?
Now I can hear you.
Great. Ambassador Haggag, you are our expert when it comes to the African files. And here we are speaking about Egypt. And Egypt, as we are always saying, it's back. Egypt is back to Africa. Egypt now chairs the African Union's permanent delegates. Well, before going into more details regarding this, how do you see the Egyptian keenness to continue with supporting the African countries in all domains, particularly, as I said, in restoring peace, stability, and in achieving sustainable development?
All African countries are independent countries, and Egypt, in relations with the African countries, are doing that with an independent countries at the same level like Egypt itself. So Egypt is rendering some support and assistance to sister African countries in the framework of being a leading African country. We are having many thousands of African students who are studying at the African university and Egyptian universities, and especially Al-Azhar University. Yeah. We have also a lot of experts in different African countries, especially professors and doctors. We try to assist African countries affected by cyclones or droughts as we can render this assistance. So it is a relationship on reciprocity and self-reliance.
And to implement that on the ground, we should tackle the latest visit by an African leader to Egypt. Senegalese President Macky Sall, who was received by President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi 2 days ago, as Macky Sall was heading a high-ranking delegation, and a number of memos of understanding were signed in many fields: electricity, sports, culture, investment, trade. How do you see such visits, sir?
Senegal is an important country in Africa. It has very good relations with all the African countries. And African Union during this year, immediately after the inauguration of the next African summit in a few days. Senegal has a moderate and foreign policy, and it does not try to create alliances or sphere of influence. So therefore we support their foreign ministry in conducting the chairmanship of the African Union. President Sall was a very prominent figure among African leaders, and he conducted very fruitful talks with President Sisi, and he has been visiting the Sheikh of Al-Azhar yesterday. Since they conduct a very moderate religious policy, they don't allow extremists or terrorists to operate from their country.
And Egypt was of the very first countries to recognize Senegal after Senegal's independence from France back in 1960. And since then, we do have diplomatic ties with Senegal, meaning that we are enjoying historical, deeply rooted bilateral relations. If you want to elaborate on that, sir.
Egypt was the first African country to recognize the independence of Senegal after it got rid of the colonial rule of France. Mm-hmm. And that's why the first president of Senegal, Professor Senghor, came to Egypt to meet President Nasser. And we are calling a very prominent Francophonie institution in Alexandria to give scholarships from Francophone countries in higher education, economy, and politics.
Yeah.
So they recognize their relations in Egypt. I remember they used to have a very prominent professor, Professor Anti Diop, who made an encyclopedia about pharaonic civilization and its relation with many African peoples and countries. So we are very grateful to this contribution, and also there is continuous consultation between the leadership of Senegal and the leadership and other authorities in Egypt.
Yes, sir. One final question, sir, regarding this important meeting which took place here in Al-Ittihadiyya between President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and his Senegalese counterpart. In the press conference after their talks, they both agreed upon the necessity and importance of reaching a binding solution for the controversial so-called Renaissance Ethiopian Dam, for the filling and operating of the building. In the same time, both leaders announced the signing of memoranda of understanding and keenness to continue with boosting ties in the field of trade and investment, meaning that Egypt is not at all against the development of any African state. On the contrary, it's with the development of all African states. How do you see these two messages sent to the international community at large, sir?
I still remember a Twitter by President Sall a few months ago that after assuming the presidency, the chairmanship of the African Union, he will make a priority of trying to solve the problem of the Ethiopian dam. And we hope that the visit of Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Abiy Ahmed, to Emirates will contribute to the chairmanship of President Sall and try to find a just and lasting solution of the Ethiopian dam, because Egypt or Sudan, we do not object to any developments of the Ethiopia, with one condition, that our water needs and is going to be respected, since Egypt and Sudan are relying in their development 99% on the water from the Nile.
And all what we want is a just binding solution which maintains and preserves the interest of all countries, whether Ethiopia or the downstream countries, namely Egypt and Sudan. That's it.
Yes, Egypt, the president said that several times, the prime minister of Egypt, the foreign minister, and all the Egyptian sectors are emphasizing this fact. We hope that the Ethiopia leadership will reciprocate with such a readiness from Egypt and Sudan, and we have no intentions to interfere in the internal affairs of Ethiopia.
Amen to that.
Okay.
Well, Ambassador Ahmed Hagag, you are always an added value to our program. Sir, thank you very much for your input and have a very good afternoon.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And by this, we come to the end of this episode of Africa Today. Stay tuned only on Nile TV International always for more. For more details, please log on to www.nileinternational.net. Many thanks for watching. This was Nermeen Abdurrahman.